Okay, everyone, let's get started here. I said in the email that what I was going to do is I was going to create a question for us to review. And again, what it does is it encompasses uh, everything that we would see in Chapter 20. Okay? So we're going to have to get our basic earnings per share before we get our diluted earnings per share. So let's look at some of the information that we have. The company starts the year with an average outstanding, or with the average falling outstanding shares. Again, I made up this question, so you have to look on your email to get the information in order to do the question. Then do the question, then watch the video and see if you got the right answer. Okay, so let's look at some information here. They start the year with 5,000 common shares at an average issue price of $3 a share. Okay, so that's really $15 million in equity. Right now, though, we're not concerned with the equity. We're only concerned with the shares. Okay? Now, preferred shares of $100,000, average share price of $10, and a non-cumulative dividend of $2. Why is that important? Well, it's important because you've got to remember a basic EPS calculation will be net income minus the preferred dividend, okay, divided by your weighted average of outstanding shares, in this case, outstanding common shares. Okay, so again, before we have our net income of $17 million, you can see that from December 31st. Okay, and you know that there's going to be a $2 non-cumulative dividend, and they do declare dividends. Okay, so you're going to have to take, in this case here, 17 million minus cumulative dividends of 200,000, non-cumulative preferred dividends of 200,000, okay, divided by, well, we don't know yet. We don't know that weighted average. Why? Well, because we started with 500,000 common shares, okay, January 1st to March 31. Okay, so here we'll have, I'm just going to put it 500,000 times 12. Then we go to 600,000. Okay. Why? Or sorry, million. 600. 5 million and then 6 million. Why 6 million? Because they issue another 1 million common shares. Okay. So then what is the weighted number of shares outstanding? Well, let's carry that through from here all the way through to here. So if I have, let me get my calculator, 5 million times 3/12, which is 0.25, is 1,250,000. And we have 6 million times 0.75, which is 9/12. We get 4,500,000. So we add that together, the 1,250,000 plus the 4,500,000, and we get a total weighted average number of shares outstanding is 5,750,000. Okay, so this number is important. Why? Well, because it goes into our basic EPS calculation. So now, 5,750,000. So what's the basic EPS? Well, the basic EPS is $17 million, which is your net income, minus your preferred dividend of 200,000. Okay, so you have 16,800,000 divided by your weighted average number of shares outstanding of 5,750,000, and you get, I don't know why that didn't equal. Okay, so we'll start over. 17 million minus 200,000, okay, divided by 5,750,000. You get an average share price of 290. All right. So let's just remember how we got that 292. There's a number of ways we can do it. Okay? But when we're creating our table in order to figure out our diluted earnings per share, right? So what we'll do is we would just have 575, 750. The earnings available to the common shareholder. Okay, how much were they in this case? Well, 17 million times 200,000. Okay, so that equals 16,800,000. Now we get an EPS of 292. Okay, so that's our basic EPS. Now let's look at our dilutive factors. Okay. Well, again, this is all what if. So we have here options. Okay, so options are going to dilute. They always do. Okay. Why do they always dilute? Well, they always dilute because they're always adding more shares, okay, to the pile. So now there's more shares and less net income to distribute amongst the shareholders. So we have 2 million common shares outstanding. Exercise price is $275. Current share price is $390. They are in the money. Okay. So we got to remember with options. Ignore this part up here because that's for another class. So I'm just going to do my options calculation, and then I'm going to erase everything. So with my options, now remember, we sell the options at the exercise price. And then the money that we get from the exercise price, we go buy it. We go back and buy those shares on the open market. Okay. So option sale would be 2 million times 275. Okay. So what that's going to do is going to give us how much money? 2.75 times 2 million equals 5,500,000. Okay. So here now you can see we're starting to dilute, right? So we have our options. So the options are share issue. The shares that are issued, we're going to issue 2 million. How many shares are we going to buy back or retire? Well, from our $5,500,000 that we got from the sale of the options, okay, we're going to go back on the open market. So if the shares are currently trading at $390, we can go buy on the open market, buy 5,500,000 shares at $390 a piece, and that'll allow us to retire shares for a total of 1,410,000. Now, it really is 1,410,256.41. Just for simplicity purposes, I'm just going to say the shares that we retire. We're going to round it to 1,410,000. Okay. All right. So as a result of issuing selling the options and then taking the money from those options and buying back our own company shares on the open market, okay, what you can see is the number of earnings available to the common shareholder has not changed. However, there's additional shares that we need common shares now with our company. Okay, so again, that'll come down here. How many shares do we now have? Well, we started with 5,750,000. Okay, we sold 2 million of options, and then we retired 1,410,000. 6 million. And again, this is going to flow down here because there's no effect on the earnings. As a result, our diluted EPS after the options is 16,800,000 divided by 6,340,000. Now you can see it's dropping, right? Now our diluted EPS is $2.65 per share. It's going to further be reduced once we convert our bonds and once we convert our preferred shares. Okay. So let's look at our bonds. First of all, we want to start looking at our interest avoided. Okay. Well, how much interest did we avoid paying? Well, these convertible bonds, we have $10 million in convertible bonds, okay? They convert at 100, they are units of 100, okay? So 10 million divided by $100 units gives us 100,000 units. 10 million divided by 100,000 units, okay? Okay. So these bond units convert to 5 common shares per unit, so times 5. So now we're going to have 500,000 additional common shares, because those are 5 to 1 per unit. So here we have to do 2 things. We've got to increase the number of common shares outstanding. Okay, remember, we convert that bond. Okay. Now there's also an effect on the earnings available to the common shareholder, because now there's a little bit more earnings available. Why? Because we are no longer having to pay out that interest. So the interest was 10 million times 6%. Okay, so that's the starting point. 10 million times 6%. So that's 600,000. Now we can't go plug in interest avoidance of 600,000 yet. Why? Because we need to convert that to an after-tax amount. Okay. So we have to take 600,000 times 1 minus the tax rate. The tax rate is 20%. Okay. So 600,000 times 0.8, 40. So they avoid paying $480,000 of interest, so that gets added to the earnings available to the common shareholder. I'm just going to put converted shares. 500,000. Okay. So now, again, that's how they got that number. Okay. 480. So now, again, we're going to see it dilute even more. Because now we have how much is available, how much earnings are available to the common shareholder? 16,800,000 plus we avoid having to pay interest of $480,000. Again, we don't have to pay interest on the bonds, we converted it to shares. So now we're at 17,280,000. And we have, so that's common earnings available to the common shareholder. Now on the weighted average side, on the average shares outstanding, okay, we've got to add another 500,000 because again, those convertible bonds converted to shares. So now we have shares of 6,340,000 plus 500,000. 6,840. So what happens now, again, every time that we put a dilutive factor in there, the bonds now are going to take our diluted earnings per share even further down, now to 253. Okay, again, it's dilutive, right? So those earnings are dropping per share, are dropping. Lastly, we have our convertible preferred shares. Okay, so let's remember what happens here. We have conversion provision converting all preferred shares to common shares at a 10-to-1 rate. Okay, so if we convert the preferred shares, okay, the preferred shares currently paid a dividend of 200, preferred dividend of 200,000. So we're going to add that back. We're going to add back the preferred dividend. 200,000 additional common shares. Okay, so we go from 200,000 preferred shares. They split out a 10-to-1 rate, so 200,000 times 10 is 2 million. So 2 million more shares. Okay. So lastly, what happens is now you have common shares outstanding. Again, these are diluted of 8,840,000, and the total number or the total earnings available to the common shareholder. Again, we don't have to pay that preferred dividend anymore, okay, because it's converted. So now there's available to the common shareholder, okay, 17,040,000. So again, lastly, we're going to take that 17,480,000 divided by the new number of common shares outstanding, which is a result of that preferred dividend conversion, or the preferred share conversion to common shares. Okay. Now, so 17,480,000 divided by 8,840,000. We get an earnings per diluted earnings per share $1.98. So now these shares are fully diluted. Okay? So you can see what happens, right? We started at 292. That's basic. So this is actual. The actual earnings per share was 292. So the dilutive factors came into play. So everything after that, I'm just going to put the screen down. Everything after that was dilutive. Okay, look at the options. The first thing that happened was the options diluted our earnings per share down to 265. Then we had to convert the bonds, which converted it down to 253. Then we had further dilution with these preferred shares. If you can do this, start to finish, figuring out your basic earnings per share, then put in the dilutive factors to get a final dilutive earnings per share of 198, again, you will have no problem, okay, on the exam, on the quiz. Okay, so again, what I wanted you to do is try that scenario I gave you first, and then match it up to what I just diagrammed up on the board. If you have any questions, please let me know. That is it for today's class. Talk to you tomorrow.